Smiles abound on this joyful Easter morning. Welcome to our Zoomers. I just ran to the back to get the screen on up here. I'm out of breath. Welcome to all of you in our sanctuary. So lovely to have a full sanctuary this morning. We must remember that we worship on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron and Wendat peoples. Whether you are here in Kingston or elsewhere in our circle of family and friends, you worship on traditional lands. So welcome to our Easter service. I do have a few announcements, so I'm going to be quick because it's a full, beautiful service. The bus is full for Hamilton. Please be here at 7:45 to jump on it. We're ready to go. Classic's birthday party is coming up on May the 7th. We are all invited to attend. The cost is $5 if you are not a Classic, and the rest of us can just have fun at a birthday party. That's what we're celebrating, is our wonderful Classics in this congregation. Now, have you ever wondered how you make those pretty, fancy, delicate little sandwiches that look so nice on a tea plate? You can find out, because Rhonda, where's Rhonda? She is going to teach us on Friday, May the 5th, from 9 until 1 o'clock, 9 to 11, 9 to 1, or whatever. Come and learn how to make fancy sandwiches that will then be served at our delightful luncheon for the Classic's birthday. So men, women, children, anybody, come and learn how to make those pretty little sandwiches. The garage sale donations are definitely being accepted. Lorna's going gun-ho. She's reached, I don't know what kind of a total, $1,400 total without even having the garage sale. So get your stuff into Lorna. Fellowship breakfast is coming up. That will be on April the 23rd. The theme is Arts and Culture Vitality here in Kingston, and our guest speaker will be Danica Lockheed, the manager of Arts and Culture Services here in Kingston. Please get your yeses into Craig Pettis so that we know how many to expect for breakfast, but I know it will be an interesting conversation. Broadview subscriptions are $25. Broadview is a wonderful publication that the United Church supports and is part of. And if you haven't told Stephanie that you would like to be on the list, whether it's renewing or starting up a new subscription, she needs to know first thing tomorrow morning, because the subscription deadline is tomorrow. She'll be sending that in. And last but not least, Friday, April the 21st from 7 to 9, we can celebrate down in the lower hall with some old-time country gospel music featuring Mary's Merry Minstrels. I'm sure it will be a lot of fun. Admission is a goodwill donation, so you can just plan on coming and enjoying yourself, and beer and wine will be available for purchase. This is the life and work of Edith Rankin Memorial United Church. On Sunday, we gather to worship. Let us worship God.
Happy Easter! Happy Easter! Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. This morning, we gather to light anew the Christ candle. For the light that always shines within us and around us, we give God thanks and praise. This morning, we also light one memorial candle. For Cheryl's mom, for Krista's grandma, Phyllis Hannah, who died this week, we light this candle, knowing that God gives renewed life to all who have lived and all who die. For on this day we remember that life is everlasting.
Here's the wonder of all wonders, on the third day it was done. The Savior has your children, sing to lose and one. He who our great
this morning I invite you to join me in the call to worship, which is a dialogue. It is taken from the book entitled Embers, one Ojibwe's Meditation. It's written by Richard Wagamis, and this is a conversation that Richard has with God, whom he calls the great creator, whom he calls old woman. Your part is old woman. Why am I alive?
Because everything else is.
No, I mean purpose.
That is the purpose. To learn about your relatives.
My family?
Yes, the moon, stars, rocks, trees, plants, water, insects, birds, and animals. We're all family. Learn about that relationship. How we're moving through time and space together. That is why you are alive.
Tell me about love.
It is our only real choice, the only thing that we can truly give.
How do we do that?
Choose it above all else. Love is leading me back to the highest possible version of myself. It is leading me back to who we were created to be. It is the most important choice you can make for each other.
Those closest to us, you mean?
No, everyone, everything, widening our circle at every opportunity.
It sounds hard.
So is being born, but we all do it.
Will you pray with me? Holy One, we come to you this Easter morn, ready to be born, even though it is hard, ready to be born again, even though that is harder still, ready to be transformed by the ordinary miracle that is our Easter story. From life to death to life everlasting, Jesus Christ is risen today, and with him, so are we. As we rise with new life, might we feel your glorious power, granting peace for all your creation and all our relations. We pray these things in the name of Jesus the Christ, who taught us to sing together. We are blessed this morning to have our Limestone ringers with us under the direction of Janet McDonald to share in their ministry of music. The Very Reverend Dr. Carmen Lansdowne is the moderator of the United Church of Canada, and she offers a message to the entire denomination from coast to coast to coast this morning. And so let's be blessed with Reverend Dr. Carmen, our moderator.
I have seen the Lord. This is what Mary Magdalene says to the disciples on the morning of Christ's resurrection. In another account, "Do not be afraid," Jesus says to the women. "Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. That is where they will see me." Jesus Christ is risen this Easter morn. Hallelujah. Alléluia. Plus tard, Paul dit à l'église de Colosse, puisque vous avez été ramenés de la mort à la vie avec le Christ, recherchez alors les choses qui sont au ciel, là où le Christ siège à droite de Dieu. Préoccupez-vous de ce qui est là-haut et non de qui est sur terre. My grandmother once told me when I was particularly strident about a social justice issue, "I certainly hope you've not forgotten the resurrection and that we are an Easter people. We believe in hope." I sighed in exasperation, as young people can do. I think I rolled my eyes and I said, "No, Grandma, I won't forget that we are an Easter people." And I don't. Je n'ai pas oublié. Comme me disait Michael Schuberg plus tôt cette année, l'Église s'est restructurée, puis la pandémie est arrivée, et c'est le monde qui s'est restructuré. Sometimes it can feel as if this world is shifting under our feet, or maybe more accurately, we are adrift at sea, sometimes getting tumbled in the waves and not knowing which way is up. But we have moments when we can break through to the surface and we see the horizon. C'est important dans ces circonstances pour notre survie de toujours regarder l'horizon. Parmi mes auteurs préférés, il y a Jane McGonigal, futuriste et conceptrice de jeux, qui parle de l'importance de regarder l'horizon, ou ce qu'elle appelle la pensée épisodique future. Lorsque vous pouvez imaginer à la fois le pire qui pourrait survenir et le meilleur avenir que vous aimeriez voir, vous mettez en place les éléments pour gérer l'un ou l'autre. Si vous n'avez envisagé que le pire qui pourrait se produire, vous ne pourrez penser qu'en fonction de la réaction à ce pire anticipé. But if you imagine what you would like to have happen, say, in 10 years into the future, you can live into that hope and put the building blocks into place and work towards that future vision. And this is what we are about as the church at Easter. The reality is that Jesus was crucified and died. The worst happened. But we are reminded each year at Easter that death did not overcome life. With images of dawn breaking on the horizon, let us listen to Paul's words to the Colossians and set our minds to that radical hope that is the Easter promise. Dans cette espérance, que pouvons-vous imaginer ensemble? Une relation juste, la paix dans le monde, une justice économique, une justice climatique for the rural church, for the future of our denomination. Let's imagine all of our hopes for a just and peaceful world together, practicing deep spirituality, bold discipleship, and daring justice.
We want to welcome our children and our young people to come on up this morning because Madam Ruth has a story for us.
So, good morning and happy Easter.
Yeah.
How can it not be happy when you have all this beautiful music from the choir and the bell choir? And when I see so many, well, and seeing you guys conduct this morning, that made me happy. And I have to give you a little background story. So all of these lovely children were at our Thank God It's Family Night. And at the Thank God It's Family Night, I told a story. I promise not to be as long this time. I'm going to give you the abbreviated version about the Easter story. However, I want to give you a really, really abbreviated story. I saw this on a sign outside a church in Amersfoort. Here it goes. The Easter story in 4 words. Hosanna, the cross. Well, technically that's true. Tomb, hallelujah. If you only remember those 4 words, you can remember the most important things about Easter. And what were they again? Hosanna. Say that word. Hosanna. The cross. The tomb. Hallelujah. There you go. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more of the story. And the people who didn't get to open an egg on our Thank God It's Friday night can open one today. So we're going to start. Does anyone remember? I know you're all really, really smart cookies. Do any of you remember what these eggs were called?
Story egg?
Well, they are story eggs, but they had a special name about what it means to kind of come back to life. Yes.
I don't know anything.
It starts with a resurrection eggs.
Whoa.
They're the resurrection eggs, kind of a big one. So I'm going to actually ask Ruby to open the first egg. Since Ruby did Ruby and resurrection, that one right there. Do you remember what was in that first egg? Show us the donkey. And what did the donkey remind us of? Jesus. And what did Jesus do on the donkey? What did he do?
He went on the donkey.
Yes, he rode on the donkey into Jerusalem, where the kings would ride on big horses, and they'd have, things. And what did they put? I know, Stella, you remember, what did they put on the ground when they saw Jesus coming?
Because when she was coming down that way near the windows, I put down my coat.
Coats and branches on the ground, and they waved. What do they wave? Palm branches, and they said, Hosanna. So that's that first part. Okay, Stella, you open the second one.
Okay. Oh yeah, my sister opened this.
What was in that second egg?
Money.
And
Yay, thank you. Thank you.
so that was to remind us. What was that reminding us of?
That a person came and said, "I'll pay you this much."
To tell us where Jesus is. So Judas, Judas betrayed Jesus. He told the people where to find Jesus. And for 30 silver coins, for 30 silver coins, he did that. All right, moving right along. Edith.
Edith, the Rankin Church.
Edith Rankin Memorial United Church. Edith has the cup. And what did that remind us of? What was the cup reminding us of? Yeah, the wine and the bread that they had at the Last Supper. And he said, drink this in remembrance of me, right? They drank the wine.
They broke the bread.
And they broke the bread. He said, eat this bread, remember me, my body broken for you. Okay, can you reach around and get the orange egg and open it up and see what's in it? That's it. We're gonna figure that out later. Hopefully people won't trip over the eggs we're leaving here. Okay, what did you get? Praying hands. What were the praying hands about? Yes.
When Jesus went to the garden,
Yep.
why do I have to die? Why are they gonna kill me?
Yes, he was praying. And in fact, in that garden called Gethsemane, in that garden when he was praying, that's when the soldiers came and arrested him.
Yeah, they were like listening and they're like, that's Jesus.
That's right. Judas said, that's Jesus. He even kissed him on the cheek. And he said, that's Jesus. And they took him away. It was dark. They had lanterns and, well, maybe not lanterns, but they had torches and things to keep everything right. Fire to keep everything bright. Okay, moving right along. Let's do the next egg because we've got lots of eggs here.
We've got enough for everybody.
Yes, we kind of ran out of eggs when we were at our Thank God It's Friday night, or Thank God It's Family Night. And what's that?
Oh, yeah.
A whip. Were you the one who opened the whip the last time? No, I thought. So, Isaac, do you remember? What was the whip all about? Stella, I know you know. So tell us.
When they found him, they used him like a slave and they whipped him to make him move.
Yeah, they tied his hands, they whipped him, they took off his clothes, they put on a purple robe and...
That it was a few weeks ago.
Exactly.
Now it's white, like when he rose.
Exactly.
I remember
Okay.
what the last egg has in it, but I'm zipped.
All right, thank you. What's in the last one, or the next one? We're gonna go quickly through the last ones. Next one, that's the rooster. And that reminds us about that, what was that man's name? The disciple?
Peter.
Peter. And what did Peter do?
He
Denied. I should probably have you sit beside me so you get the mic and you can tell the story.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So what did Peter do?
Peter, when they said, do you know, Jesus? And, Peter, was one of the disciples, but he betrayed Jesus and said, no, I don't know him.
I don't know him exactly. See, these folks were listening at our story on our TGIF. Yes, so Peter denied him. He said, I don't know him. Nope, not me. That wasn't it. And how many times did he deny him? How many times did he say he doesn't know him? 3 times. And then the rooster crowed. Okay, so we're just going to go quickly. I'm just going to open the next ones if that's okay. So we have, what's this one?
It's very pokey.
It's very pokey. That is the crown of thorns. And what did they do with it? Isaac, do you remember what they did with the crown of thorns? They pushed it on his head. That would be painful, wouldn't it? Okay, I'm gonna clean up this mess later. Just don't step on them. Because we want to do the abbreviated version. Here we go. What's this one?
The cross.
The cross. And Ruby, do you remember? What happened to Jesus? Why do we have a cross at Easter? What did they do to Jesus? Yes, Edith.
The cross. Jesus died on the cross.
That's right, he died on the cross.
It's a symbol of where he died.
That's right, he died, and it's made of nails to remind us that he was nailed to the cross.
And there are 2 bad guys on the other side.
That's right, you remember that part too, that there was a robber on either side of him.
And that's because
if they were
Do
like
you want to open
bad
one?
guys, they would do it.
Joshua, do you want to open one? Since you didn't get a chance, anyone who was up here got to open. What's in that one? Well, we have to open it to tell the story, though. So, oh, what's in there? Oh, the spear. Do you remember what the spear was? What happened with the spear? They poked Jesus when he was on the cross. That certainly wasn't very nice, was it? Would you like to open up the next one too? Since you can't keep it for later though. You have to open it now. Would you like to open this one? Okay. Since you kind of missed our story, you get to open a second egg. Okay. Oh, that one. What's in there?
I remember yesterday when there was another one.
Yes, you opened up. Do you remember what this was for? What did they do? What did they do with the linen? Yes.
They put it on Jesus and then they buried that.
That's right. Good memory. So yes, a man named Joseph, one of the disciples, he asked, "Can I take Jesus' body and bury him properly? Give him a proper burial?" Yeah, just like his father, right? Yeah, but different Joseph.
I thought it was his father.
No. So a Joseph, he took this linen and he wrapped his body and he put him in the tomb. And we're going to just quickly open the last one. Ooh, what's that one? The big rock, the big stone. And what did they do with the big stone? Yes.
They closed the cave.
That's right. They rolled the stone in front of the tomb. But, okay, I'm going to let Ruby open this very last, very important egg. Open it up.
It has the most specialist.
It's the most special egg here.
What? Where's the yolk?
It's empty.
Yeah, where's the yolk?
But
No
the
yolk.
question is, what's in there? What is it? It's empty.
Oh yeah.
And what does that remind us of?
The time when the angel opened the tomb, Jesus wasn't there.
He was gone. And where was he? He had
risen.
Jesus had risen. Christ had risen. And we are going to go downstairs now and celebrate that Jesus is alive. And we're going to sing about it being a happy day. And we're going to get these eggs all sorted out some other time. And we're going to leave you in peace now. So hang on, 4 words. Hosanna. I didn't hear you. Hosanna. Cross. Tomb. Hallelujah. There we go.
And we welcome Zach to read our scripture for us this morning from the Gospel of John. Zach?
John chapter 20, verses 1 to 18. Early on the first day of the week, it was still dark. Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. She ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom loved Jesus, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went toward the tomb. The two were running together, but the disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. He saw that the linen wrappings lying there, and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a plate by itself. Then the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed, for as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw 2 angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had been laying, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." When she said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned around and said to him in Hebrew, Rabboni, which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them that he had said these things to her.
Thanks, Zach. It's so great to have a sanctuary full this morning and those who are joining us on Zoom, because we make up the family. And for many, Easter is about family. Maybe it's the family that you were born into. Maybe it's the family that you have chosen. Or maybe that family for you is here at church, your church family. In my family this year, we're celebrating the return of my sister Heather from Australia and New Zealand, where she and her husband Dave have been traveling since Christmas. Their daughter, my niece, is doing her final semester of teacher training in New Zealand, where her mom, my sister Heather, did a teaching exchange just about 30 years ago now. During their travels, my sister and I have been sharing text messages back and forth, but it's usually at about 4 a.m. our time. They crossed the international date line. They moved what was then our winter to their summer, and now from our spring into their fall. She would send pictures of waves crashing on the beach, or flowers blooming in the gardens, or, yes, kangaroos and koala bears too. It seemed like it was a different world, in a different time, in a different place, and yet it was all happening simultaneously. My Aunt Nancy, who is also a United Church minister, is telling this story to her congregation this morning about a time when she was in Australia. She says, "Way back in October of 1992, my husband and I were traveling in Australia. We were traveling for the better part of a year, and so we were being very frugal. And we went for the cheapest accommodation that we could find, which was often a rented trailer in a campground. Now, I don't know if you remember what was happening in October of 1992, but I sure do. On this one day, we saw a newspaper that included the world events, and a baseball game was going to be played that night. It was Game 6 in the World Series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Atlanta Braves. I just bet that Mary Catherine remembers. We decided, my Aunt Nancy says, that we had to see that game. But we were in the Australian outback, so we drove like crazy to a more populated area, and we rented a motel room that had a television. Before we paid, we made sure that the TV was going to be playing the baseball game. We made ballpark hot dogs for supper. We bought peanuts and popped popcorn, and we had beer cooling in the refrigerator, just like the real thing. We were ready. Now, because of the time difference, the game was going to be televised after the 11 o'clock news. Who cares? It was going to be a late night. We're ball fans, and we would watch our beloved Blue Jays and cheer them on. We would wave our rally rags just like those who lined the streets with palm branches a mere week ago. So, the 11 o'clock news was just finishing. We were settled into our chairs, ready for the game to begin, and the newscaster said, "I'm not kidding you. And if we have any baseball fans here in Australia, you'll be interested to know the Toronto Blue Jays just won the World Series in Game 6. It was a 4-3 win in the 11th inning. They'd already won. Yes, that time difference, that international date line, they'd already won, and before we started, we knew the ending. We knew how it turned out, 4-3 in the 11th inning. Well, folks, today we celebrate Easter, and we know the ending. We know how it turns out, knowing that our family, blood or chosen or church, will gather at table or in hearts or on Zoom or in memory. Wherever they are in the world, whatever time zone, whatever season, whatever inning of our lives, to say, we know the ending. We know how it turns out. He is not here. He is risen. I mean, it's no spoiler like 4-3 in the 11th inning. But what it is instead is a lifetime of faith, a creedal commitment, an apostolic assurance, a disciple's declaration. He is not here. He is risen. Now, I've actually never been to Australia, but I've seen the landscape with mine own eyes, through my sister Heather and through my aunt Nancy. We have maybe never been to the tomb on that first Easter morn, but we have seen the landscape with our own eyes through our sister Mary, through our brother Simon Peter. We may not have heard those first cries, but we have borne the first witness with our own ears to the songs of the angels who offer the heavenly homily with the message to Mary and to you and to me. Woman, why are you weeping? For I am ascending to your God and my God. You see, my friends, Easter is about resurrection. It's about God who creates a way when there is no way, through the hands and feet of those who follow. This God of justice, this God of compassion, this God of grace and mercy and forgiveness and hope and Easter witness. Woman, why are you weeping? You know how it ends. Resurrection is not something that you wrangle, it's something that you witness. Resurrection is not something that you discern, it's something that you display. Resurrection is not something that you lead, it's something that you live. On Good Friday, we stood here and we ended with the words that Jesus spoke, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And today, we hear the words from the same voice, from the one who calls us by the same name, from the one who baptized us in the river Jordan, from the one who broke the bread and poured the cup and said, "Do this in remembrance of me." From that voice, we hear, "Woman, why are you weeping? For whom are you looking?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will go and take him away." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. He is our teacher. May we learn from him the difference between resuscitation and resurrection, the difference between life everlasting and eternal life. He is our teacher. May we learn from him the difference between hate and love, fear and hope, forgetting and forgiving. He is our teacher, Rabboni. May we learn from him that our names are known, that our hearts are loved, that our souls are granted grace wherever we are in the world, the outback or the infield. Wherever we are, in our families, in our careers, in our successes, wherever we are, in our diagnoses or in our treatment, wherever we are in our homelessness or in our food insecurity, wherever we are in our addiction or in our disease, wherever we are in our lives or in our death. In this time zone or that, in this sphere or that, in this reality or that, in this lifetime or that, in this realm or that, he is our teacher, our Rabboni. May we learn, as Mary learned, on this Easter morn, to share the resurrection story and tell all the world, we have seen the Lord. May it be so. And for that, all God's people can say, Amen. Christ is alive. Let Christians sing. Let's sing it together. You'll find it on page 158 or on your monitor.
Christ is alive.
For our prayers of the people this morning, I invite you to look around at your family, this community of faith. As you feel safe, I invite you to reach out and touch the shoulder or hold the hand of the person next to you and offer God's grace and peace on this Easter morn. Bless you. Our prayers of the people are 4 words, and I invite you to recite them after me. Let us pray. Hosanna. Hosanna. The cross. The tomb. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And all God's people can say, Amen. We are so blessed with our chancel choir and the gift of music that allow us to sing our hosannas. And so under the direction of Kim Barney, once again, on this day of rejoicing. With special thanks to Todd Wright on trumpet and the alto section, because the alto section always needs a little extra praise. We're so grateful for your gifts of music. We all share our gifts and our time and our talents. And we are so grateful for all of you who throughout this whole pandemic have allowed the mission and the ministry to continue here. We feel grateful to have a full house this morning. We have not been passing the offering plate, and so it's going to come up the center aisle. If you have something that you want to put in it that you haven't put in it yet, sneak it down to the outside and they'll walk slowly down up the center aisle. But to all of you who continue to share here at Edith Rankin and with the mission and service of the United Church, we are so grateful. As we dedicate our offering this morning, we invite you to rise as you're able, and we will sing together, "We Praise You, O God." They're celebrating their 60th anniversary this year, but they're walking slow enough to be coming down the aisle for the first time. Let's pray. Holy God, we ask for your blessing upon these gifts and upon all those who have given, that these gifts and resources might be used here in this community and around the world, so that everyone, everywhere, might hear this day, "He is risen." Hallelujah, hallelujah. And all God's people can say, Amen. Let's sing together our closing hymn for this Easter morning. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Give thanks to the risen Christ. Friends, go from this place with praise upon your lips and love within your heart, so that you might share with all the world the good news. He is not here, he is risen. Thanks be to God, and all God's people can say, Amen. And we have a blessing this morning. Woman, why are you weeping? For you know how it ends. Phyllis, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God look upon you with kindness and give you peace. And all God's people can say, Amen.